Cindy from Stamped with Aloha. Today I'm going to share with you one of my inspired creations. I'm going to teach you how to create a vintage birthday card that I designed after this blouse that I'm wearing today that was purchased at 33 Butterflies Boutique in Honolulu. So let's go ahead and get started on today's project. All right, let's get started with our stamping. We're going to be working with a 2 3/4 inch by 5 piece of Crumb Cake cardstock. And then from the Shaded Summer stamp set, I'm going to be using this flower image here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some smoky slate ink, and I'm going to ink up that flower image, and then I'm going to stamp it all over this piece of cardstock in many different directions. All right, now it's time to do some quick coloring. So I'm going to be using my Stampin' Blend marker. We'll be using 4 different colors. We're going to start with Fresh Fresia. This is dark Fresh Fresia. I will be coloring this on the flower image that looks like that. So it looks like I've got 2 of them. All right, ready or not, here I go. Next, we have Flirty Flamingo Light. I'll be using this on this large flower here. Okay, I told you that was going to be fast, yeah? All right, next we have Dark Flirty Flamingo, and I'm going to color this on all of these smaller little flowers with the little bud. All right, here I go. Okay, and then the final color we're going to use is Granny Apple Green. This is light Granny Apple Green. We'll be using this on all of the leaves. Okay, so the coloring is done, and I just want to remind you that I pulled all of these colors from the color of my blouse here. So you can see there is even more colors in here. There's some blue that I didn't use, but I just picked some of the primary colors and then I transitioned them onto the cardstock. So that's just a really fun way that I like to stamp, and I get inspired by things that I see, whether it be with fabric, with clothing, something from my garden. But if you follow my channel, you probably already know that I stamp like this a lot. All right, let's get back to the project. So because this is supposed to be fabric, I do want to add some texture to this. So right now, my favorite embossing folder is this Timeworn type. So I'm going to open up my embossing folder. I'm going to place this piece in here. I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to go run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Okay, I'm back, and let's take a look at it. Isn't that beautiful? I just love the texture, and there's even some little words in there, and I just think this makes this look even more vintage for our card today. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to mount this onto some Shaded Spruce cardstock. Okay, so let me get out my glue, and I'm going to place some liquid adhesive on the back. And this was 2 3/4 inches by 5, so we're gluing this to a 3 by 5 1/4 piece of Shaded Spruce. Okay, and then we can get out our card base. This is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 of Crumb Cake. And then I'm going to turn this over, add my adhesive to the back, and we're going to mount this over to the side. All right, now this is a vintage card, so I'm gonna do something I haven't done for a really long time, and that is some embossing. So I'm gonna be working with this Crumb Cake piece of cardstock. This tag here was die cut from the Pierced Bloom dies, which is one of my favorites. And then this is gonna be a birthday card, so I'm gonna be using the Happy Birthday image from the Shaded Summer stamp set. I'm gonna be using some Versamark ink, and then some very, very vintage embossing powder that I hope works. I definitely need to refresh this because this is pretty old. So then I'm gonna take my Happy Birthday, ink it up with my Versamark, and I'm going to stamp it right in the center of this little tag. And then quickly, before that dries, I'm gonna come in here with the powder, and I'm going to put powder on the top of that. And I'm going to put the excess powder back in the jar. And then I'm ready to heat emboss this. All right, now before I emboss, just one quick tip is when I put the Versamark ink down, you need to put the powder on right away. And then once the powder's on, I could leave it like that. I could even have it set out overnight. But if I rub my finger on it, it is going to smear. So we need to emboss it to set it. So I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool with the stylus end just to hold it into place, because the heat gun can be really hot. And then I'm going to take the heat gun, and then I'm going to just hold it in one place until you start to see that it's beginning to emboss. And then once you see it's embossing, I'm just going to slide it across, and emboss the entire image. So after it's been embossed, you can see that it just adds a really special touch to the card because it's raised up and it's nice and shiny, and it'll be the perfect touch for this particular card. All right, so to attach this to the card, I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to grab some dimensionals, and I'll just put a couple of dimensionals on the back. And then I'm going to mount this right up here. All right, for the next step, we are going to add some red flowers, because if you take a look at the blouse that inspired this card, you can see that it has these gorgeous flower patterns all over it, but just at one section right here at the top of the blouse, there are these embroidered red flowers. So I looked at my cardstock and I chose the color Cherry Cobbler, and then I got out some dies and I went ahead and die cut some flowers. So let me show you the flowers that I originally die cut. So I put these flowers on the card here, and these flowers were from our annual celebration that's happening right now, but it's almost over. So if you haven't gotten these are dies that coordinate with the Shaded Summer stamp set. So these are the Shaded Summer dies, and these are free with a qualifying order. I thought these were super pretty, but in case you're watching this video and celebration is over and these dies are no longer available, I wanted to show you how you could create it with the same die set that I got this tag out of, which is our pierced bloom dies. These are my absolute favorite dies, definitely must have for your collection. The other thing I'm going to show you is the LTT or Laura's tape technique. I know many of you know it. If this is the first time following my channel, then I want to teach it to you because it is like a technique that just completely changed my crafting, because I do it all the time and I love it, and it really makes a difference in the projects. So for Laura's tape technique, you take a piece of cardstock, you take a piece of tape, you place the tape over the cardstock. You want it to get it on there as smooth as possible. Then you take your dies. So I'm going to be using the pierced bloom dies here. You lay your dies onto the taped piece of cardstock. You run it through your embossing machine, and ta-da! Look how gorgeous these are. So just adding the tape makes such a difference. Now, if you want a more matte finish, then you can get a finish like this. But if you would rather have a really shiny, glossy finish, and I kind of like that because these flowers are a little bit shiny, then just add the tape and you're gonna have amazing results. All right, so let's go ahead and put these on the card and finish up the card. All right, I'm gonna start with this cluster here. I'm gonna put this on with glue dots. So I'm gonna place a glue dot there and a glue dot at the tip. And then I'm going to tuck this underneath the tag and stick it down. Next, I'm going to use this piece here. I've already added some glue dots to the back, so I'm going to just bring it over here and I'm going to stick it down right above the tag. Then I'll be using this flower here. I've added some glue dots as well, and then I'm going to just position this on there and I'm going to stick it right there. For this next flower, I'm going to place a mini dimensional. So put that on there, and then this flower is going to go right here. And then I'm going to finish up by adding 2 more flowers. So I'll be using glue dots on these, and then I'm going to just stick one up here, and I'm going to stick one right down there. Okay, we're going to finish up this card with some fun embellishments. I'm going to be using our new brushed metallic adhesive back dots. I'm also going to be using a champagne rhinestone. And then I dug into my button jar here. So I actually have been doing Stampin' Up! For 22 years. So these are buttons that we've carried in the past that I save, and I use them every once in a while. And so I pulled 2 buttons out of there that look like this, that are I thought that these would be perfect since this was a vintage card. Then these are several years old from my collection over the years, and so I'm going to go ahead and add these to the card. So let's go ahead and add these final embellishments. So using a glue dot, I'm going to place this embellishment here, which I love that one. And then for the button, I'm going to go ahead and add a glue dot for that as well. And I'm going to place the button just right here on the edge of the tag. I'm going to pick up one of the large brush metallic dot to place right there. So we're going to finish this up with our champagne rhinestones. So I'm going to pick up a medium one and put it right there, and a second medium one and put it right there. And that completes my vintage birthday card. So my vintage birthday card is done, and I hope that you not only enjoyed learning how to make this card, but I hope that I've inspired you to take a look in your closet and see what you have in your wardrobe that can inspire your next creation. I want to say thanks for stopping by, and I hope that you'll come back again and stamp with me real soon. Until then, aloha.